Hello, my name is Lance. I'm from the roasting company SEY Coffee in Brooklyn. We are very excited to be here for the Fellow Drop program. Let's just jump right into this. We're going to use, I don't have coffee. We came here with 5 different coffees from Colombia to taste exclusively with Fellow to try to find which coffee we wanted to, or they wanted to use for their drops program. This is going to be an exclusive micro lot, and after a cupping of all 5 coffees, they settled on the coffee from Astrid Medina. It's a coffee from Tolima in Colombia, from the northern part of Colombia. It's 100% Caturra. She is an amazing producer. We've been working with her for, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years at this point. We taste her coffees every year, and generally we will make at least one, sometimes multiple selections of her coffees every year. She's incredible. Her coffees are some of the most consistently well-produced and just beautiful coffees that we taste out of Colombia every year. She is amazing. Yeah, let's get right into this. We're going to brew today with a 1:18 ratio. We're going to start with 20 grams of coffee, and we're going to end with 360 grams of water. 1:18 ratio is a little bit on the more aggressive side of coffee brewing ratios. And the reason behind that is we're really trying to get as much out of this coffee as we possibly can. We really want to extract it. Yeah, so 1:18 ratio is a pretty aggressive brew ratio for coffee. We really want to try to push our extractions really as far as we can get them to go while the coffee still tastes good. And part of the reason for that is just the quality of green coffee that we're working with. It is incredible. The coffee itself is it's just really, 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 really beautiful. So we're trying to get as much out of that as we can, and also our roasting approach. We really approach this coffee as delicately as we can while making it soluble so we can actually pull stuff out of the coffee, but we're really trying to not bake off or burn off any of the soluble compounds that we really do want in the coffee after we brewed it. So 1:18 ratio, starting with 20 grams. We're going to be grinding on the Fellow Ode grinder today. This has been retrofitted with SSP burrs, low fine SSP burrs to be specific. And because of that, we're going to probably be grinding a little bit finer than you normally would with the stock burrs in the Ode. So we're going to be grinding today on 4. Let's get that going. It's cool how it does that. Also, with the SSP burrs and specifically the low fine SSP burrs, this is actually going to allow us to grind even finer because it's not going to have the actual fine fines that the general burrs are going to create for you, which is really going to clog up the coffee. Also, a quick note on resting coffee. During the roasting process, CO2 actually gets trapped in the coffee, and that needs to get released before we actually can start brewing the coffee, or brewing the coffee effectively. It's going to add astringency to our coffee. It's also going to create, as we brew and as we grind coffee, the CO2 is going to get released faster. So if it hasn't already been released, you'll start noticing a lot of bubbles coming up in the coffee as you're brewing. That's the CO2 being released, and we really don't want that. It hinders the evenness of extraction. It also hinders just how effectively the water is actually capable of getting in there, doing its job of extracting the stuff that we want actually out of the coffee. So resting, ideally up to 3 weeks before brewing filter coffee, and ideally 4 weeks if it's going to be espresso. All right, now that we have our ground coffee, we're going to go ahead and give the paper filter a rinse. This is going to help us preheat our brewing device, so we have more just heat retention happening in the brewing process, as well as kind of just like rinsing away the paper kind of residue that is on the filter that we really don't want to end up in our coffee. I generally like to give that a quick rinse to also warm up the vessel as well and make sure to discard it. All right, we are ready to start brewing coffee. Let's give it a little shake, make sure the bed starts at a nice even flat place. And we're going to start this with a bloom of 60 grams. Once we get to 60 grams, we're going to just give it a nice little swirl. And what that's going to do is it's going to help really make sure that the coffee and the water are well saturated, or the coffee is well saturated. What we really want is an even sort of distribution of the water and the coffee. Coffee tends to clump pretty badly, so we want to make sure those clumps get just interrupted and the water can actually get in there and make sure that all of the coffee is actually properly saturated with water. This is going to really help us get a more even and also more efficient extraction. On to our first pour. We're going to take this up to about 150 grams. And once we get here, we're going to give it just a pretty gentle stir with a spoon, anything you have lying around. And again, this is really just to help introduce the water to the coffee, make sure that everything is properly saturated, and all of the coffee is just integrated with the water. And then we want to make sure that we start our second pour before the coffee bed dries up. For this specific brew style, this brew method, we really don't want the water to finish pulling through the coffee before we start introducing more water. So here we're going to go up to 250 grams. And we should see like a pretty nice flow rate here. Nothing too fast, nothing too slow. I'm not super concerned personally about time and how long a brew cycle is actually taking. What I'm really concerned about is how high and even our extraction is getting, specifically with coffees roasted like this and coffee specifically of this kind of quality. Sometimes these do tend to drift up into the 7 minutes. That is totally okay. Here, with what we're looking at right now, we should probably be looking at something closer to a 4-minute brew cycle. So here is our third. What we're going to try to do is get all the way to 360 grams. We might make it. All right, 360 grams. And on the last pour, I like to just give it one more stir. This is just going to help with agitation. Agitation helps extract coffee. And again, you probably heard me say this a lot. You'll hear me say it again and multiple times. We're really looking to try to get high extractions on these coffees. Generally, we like to try to see them up into the 22 plus range. And also in that realm, we are using water directly off a boil. So basically as close to a boil as we can get. And between every pulse, you see me putting it back on the heating element to try to get the water back to as close to a boil as we can get, as hot water is, again, just more efficient at extracting coffees. And that's for these coffees, specifically. Don't recommend brewing all coffees with boiling water. We don't recommend brewing all coffees with this fine of a grind and this brew ratio. This is really specific for this roasting style as well as these quality coffees that we're currently using. And at the very end here, I'm going to give it one final swirl. This is going to give us a really nice flat bed depth. And just let the water finish pulling through as evenly as possible. If we have a bed that has any sort of like divoting or mounding, that's going to be a good indication that we probably had some sort of channeling happening or some sort of unevenness in the water flowing through the actual bed of coffee. And as you can see here, we have a lovely flat bed. Looks like everything went through totally fine. And yeah, there we have it. Astrid Medina. Thank you so much for watching. It's been an honor, and we're really happy to be a part of this. We can't thank Fellow and the Drops program enough for inviting us here, and we're very excited it's Astrid Medina's coffee. She is one of our favorite producers in the world. She is an exceptional coffee producer. Could not speak more highly of a coffee producer than Astrid Medina. She is truly, truly amazing. So I hope that you enjoy, and thank you for watching.